Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Integrate Yourself Podcast with Allison and Maya. You can find me at pureenergypdx.com, and you can find Maya at mayagottlieb.com. Thank you so much to Michael Wynn of Michael Wynn Productions for providing the music for this podcast. And thank you so much to our listeners for all your love and support. We really appreciate you. Today we're talking about low energy and high energy and working in versus working out or doing both and how to integrate those into your life. So without further ado, here's the show. Hello everybody, this is Allison and Maya with the Integrate Yourself Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about low energy. Low energy is not something that people know much about, I'm finding. I talk to people about this all the time, and I think most people classify low energy as looking like severely fatigued. But what the way Maya and I see it is a little differently. So we're going to talk about that today and give you a picture of our view of low energy from a physiological standpoint, as well as how your energy and how you generate your energy relates to your structure, your body structure, your connective tissue, your muscle, your bone. And then if you are classified as a person with low energy, then how does that look for you? How do you regulate your energy? How do you take in your energy from food? How do you expend your energy with working out? What is the plan for that? What are the things that we recommend within that as well? And then finally, we're going to talk about a little bit about the athletes and talk about how the athletic body is very much a vision of health in our country and how that might be wrong. So, Maya, let's get started. What do you want to start with the low energy thing? What, in your opinion, does low energy look like?
Well, hi everyone. I think for me, low energy actually is, if we really could say low energy is like a subtle feeling, and then fatigue is like an extreme feeling. So like one of the things I notice is how people can't distinguish between the two. And when they say they, have low energy, they're so used to being fatigued that if they're not in the fatigue stage where they're maybe so tired they can't get up, they need caffeine to wake them up, or they have inflammation and their joints are hurting, and they can't get out of bed because the night before they didn't sleep well, or all the things that you would hear when someone is chronic, like has a lot of pain or something. Maybe even the extremes of like fibromyalgia. But these are the distinguishing parts, is to say, okay, low energy might be, I feel a little bit like I can't concentrate, or I have I feel like I need to move because I've been sitting too long. These are subtleties. These are moments where we can kind of connect with our body and say, okay, have I been focusing on a computer too long, and my stimulation is so excitatory because of the screen or something, or have I not eaten in the last hour or two because I've been too busy. And what I would say is like helping people understand that low energy is just the small subtle stage. You need to get to that knowing of when you feel these little increments so that you don't go into the fatigue part.
So what I hear you say, Maya, is that the fatigue, like the chronic fatigue, the extreme situations, are just basically a reflection of something that's been going on for a long time, and that's the way I see it too. And then all these things that, what it sounds like too is like all these things that are really associated with like a hyper type of child, or hyper. I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but just overstimulated, right? Overstimulated cells,
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about ADHD or the, kids that have inability to concentrate, things that, make them seem hyper or non-distract, or distracted all the time, maybe even in the extreme of autism, there is something, a level of symptoms that have created that action to happen. Like we may mainly skip over what has happened through the day because we kind of process a lot of stuff through the day, and by the time we get home, it's an exhaustion. We come home and we're like, oh my god, I'm so too tired, so let me just watch TV, let me kind of bring myself into a space of numbness, because I'm so overstimulated, underfed, and now pretty much just can't do anymore. I can't maybe make dinner, or I can't do something to help myself right now because I'm just done, So one of the key points is to realize how we fuel ourselves. What are we doing in the day is going to affect us through the night and the next day, and all that kind of, triple effect of, everything builds on the other thing. So
Right.
what,
Yeah.
oh, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
No, I wanted, I'm really interested in this part because I have personally experienced this, and I honestly just haven't, I don't know, it just didn't hit me as hard until I guess most recently. So just seeing all these things, the excitatory state is what I was trying to think of, and like the restless leg syndrome, and all these things that we got kind of just take as like a part of life, or as you get older these things happen. And I feel like and I had that too when I was a kid, and I think about all those other things that just remind me of the excitatory state that I've had pretty much all my life. um, it just really, I wanted to see if you could just list some things that maybe you've personally experienced, and or some things that you've seen that people with low energy, because it's basically it's low energy and adrenalized state kind of go hand in hand, and they oscillate back and forth, correct?
Right. I mean, we're really confusing ourselves when we think that, we feel fine, because we don't distinguish that we're actually living off stress hormones, instead of the cells working, in a relaxed state. There's respiration, there's things that are happening that are normalizing the body. So there's clarity, and the mind and the body functions well. A lot of times we're so used to being cortisol driven and adrenalized that we have no clue what it feels like. And when we get sick or something happens to us, then it's like a brick hits us, right? And then all these symptoms start coming out, and we're like, what's going on? And then you start resting more, and then even more symptoms come. But what we realize is that, oh, if you really see the body is recovering from all those stress hormones flowing through your body, you're finally feeling some of these symptoms because the body is finally getting to the layer that it can repair. And when we don't allow that to happen, we just mask it, and then kind of keep going, and then aging process accelerates. We get into this sense of, why can I not do what I did when I was younger? And like for you, like Allison, you said when you were younger, you had the, athletic background, and you put, a lot of energy into gymnastics. And when you talk about like what you see now and not being able to like really kind of understand, it's because a lot of times, even for myself, I recognize, oh, this is because I lived in an adrenalized and cortialized state for so long that now I'm finally getting in tune with my body. Like, it's taking this long just for me to live a life without living off stress hormones.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
and if
that.
you think about your experience of helping other people with, physical movement, And, people are so inundated with this health industry paradigm that, to lose weight, I need to exercise. I have to move. Well, you do have to move, but do you know the difference between working in and working out based on your day? Like, did you start your day off, rushing out the door, not eating breakfast before you went to go work out? Did you do a hard cardio class just before, you then got ready for work and then grabbed your coffee, and then, by the time you get to work, it's halfway in the day, you're, not eating any small snack. And so you hit lunch, right? And so you go in to have a great big lunch, maybe somewhere or out, especially some quick place, because some people don't have the time to have a relaxing state of eating. And then they, fill themselves up. They have the lag in the day after lunch, where they feel really tired. And then by the time they're almost out of work, they're exhausted, and they think, okay, now I, go home and relax. We know that's not going to happen, because you're going to be going through traffic, or you got to go take care of your kids, or, your day's not over. And you've already like left half your calorie intake to be, pick back up by the nighttime. And we gotta kind of have to come back to realizing, like, what are you living off of? Are you living off of real food, or are you living off of stress hormones?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I can totally relate to that and have done that so much as a mom, and having a job as a mom. Uh, you're pretty much living off stress hormones there.
Yeah, and sleep
Balancing,
deprivation. I mean, what
yeah.
what else is there but stress
Oh my
hormones? Like,
God, I know. And it's so hard. It's so hard because, you can tell people like you've got to do, I think like the most practical, easy thing that I've really been working on the past 5 years or so, and I think that would make, most sense to most people, is to just eat more frequently. And I say that to people all the time, and it just gets like, people don't put a lot of weight on that because it's so simple and it's so practical. But if everybody would just start there, you'd be surprised just how
yeah,
much that would do. I just,
food
the
frequency
thing
is
about, yeah, go
important.
ahead.
Oh, I was just saying,
Yeah,
food
yeah,
frequency. I mean, one of the things I think is it's just another way for people to kind of feel overwhelmed. It's something else I have to do.
yeah.
And that's because they've lived in that extreme so long that it's like you're fatigued out, and you've got this self-helplessness kind of thing, where if I do one more thing, I'm going to break the camel's back, that kind of. And so when you hear that from someone who's like trying to help you, you kind of shut down. It's like, oh, I'm already eating, I already eat this, but they don't know if that food has been metabolized correctly, because some part of their body, is in stress. And so that food may be in their system, but is it going throughout the system and helping it, or is it just shooting right out? And then you're kind of pushing yourself in a place where you're kind of feeling, you know,
Hmm.
you did something, but it didn't do anything to help you.
Right. And I think the best place to start is to create a schedule for yourself, create healthy boundaries. Don't overload yourself with doing too much, because honestly, I think, especially as a woman, I experience society, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like I I'm supposed to be doing everything, right? So now that
Yeah.
we, and so it's a lot of pressure, and I know men feel a lot of pressure too. They have the weight of the world on their shoulders as well. So we all have all this pressure. But I think if we just kind of, if you can give yourself a little bit of space to really feel in your own self what you value and what you feel is important, I guarantee food might be one of those things, as well as just giving yourself, taking some things off the plate and giving yourself a little more space to process and breathe. That's worked really great for me, but also just scheduling things like, having enough time before your workout in the morning, getting up enough time before so that you can make something. But again, like you said, sometimes people they can barely get up, and they haven't hardly any energy to get up, much less make something. So I guess you have to start somewhere. So I would say probably uh, maybe just taking some things off the schedule would be the best start of that, and then coming up with a plan and a schedule for yourself. You even have to, I think sometimes you even have to schedule when you eat.
I
Otherwise, you're
think
not going to do it.
I think if you really see how the importance of scheduling will take away the thinking process. Like, sometimes just putting an alarm on your phone and saying, at this time I got to do this. You can set it up for a meeting, you can set it up for other people, but do you do it for yourself? So like, if it's too hard for you to check the clock because you're so busy and you don't know what's going on, then set the alarm on your phone and say, okay, at this time I need to have some food or drink or something between the times that I normally feel like I've got this, I know I need to eat breakfast, or I know I need to eat lunch. But do you know about your midday snack, or your after breakfast snack? And in that way, it gets you into the pattern when without you having to use your brain to say, okay, another thing on my list. And then I would say, like, a lot of the times you're looking at how, you can say, how am I going to establish my next day? So like prepping food, like what's the issue about, maybe making a lunch for yourself and, keeping yourself in with food in your, snacks or something so you kind of keep your day with your knowing of access to food. Like if you rely on, well, I'll just figure it out when I'm there, then what happens is then you're subjected to time, you're subjected to what's around you, and you may not always be able to choose the food that's going to work for you the best. So like eating out a lot, we have a system of restaurants that create an easiness to their giving you food, but they're also made out of polyunsaturated fats, vegetable oils, things that are very hard for the body. I mean, those PUFAs, or what we call polyunsaturated fats, are basically what limit your thyroid production and create and decrease respiration. So if you think about that, you're already asking for yourself to have to work even harder through your day because you don't even have the food that is supporting you. And if you can kind of say to yourself, do I really want to put myself or subject myself into a day where I have more to have to deal with? My body itself has to process things that it can't do, and I'm already stressed out as it is. It's a choicing of options, and you kind of will maybe then switch the corner and say, what, it's so much easier for me to prep my food for my day if I'm going to be out and I know I'm not going to be around good things, and kind of get into a routine than to sit there and just leave yourself open to either not eating or creating bad habits of foods that don't suit your system.
Absolutely. I think also that it's cheaper to do that, and
Yeah.
and you can control the kind of food you're buying, right? You know exactly what you're putting in your body because you bought it and you cooked it. One thing I'll share with everybody is this has been working really well for me in the mornings. I'll cook an egg in the morning and then put some cheese. I'll scramble it, put some cheese on it, and then get an organic tortilla and put it in the middle of the tortilla and wrap it up, just like a little taco, and just make a couple of those. And it literally takes me anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to make. It's that quick.
It's I can tell you right now and tell everyone, it's the best breakfast. Like just
Yeah.
visiting you just recently and having that just totally reminded me. And when I came home, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing that. And you know, if you don't have the time, there's some great or tortillas that you buy that are pure corn and they're not
Is
mixed
it
with flour and stuff. Or you can
sell
get
those where you are? Three Sisters? Or
yeah, yeah, they sell them, but today I actually created a corn flour from Mesa. So like the Bob Mills corn um, uh, meal that kind of you can
oh
make
yeah.
your own. And so like
Uh-huh.
tonight we're gonna have a little bit of that with some food that Bob has made, but just the idea of how simple a corn tortilla with some eggs and cheese and a little bit of your coffee was amazing. Like it's a great way of starting the day.
Yeah, that I know. I really enjoyed your visit. By the way, Maya came to visit me in Portland just recently, and we had a blast. We went on hikes and we went to see Tony Robbins, which was interesting, and we made food and went out to great dinners and all that. So that was really fun. And
Which I will
yeah, and
segue
pasta.
totally into
Yeah, go ahead.
interrupting you on this one, but I
Oh no,
totally
go
feel
ahead.
that the same reason we're talking about this is the same reason we survived the Tony Robbins experience. I mean,
Oh my God.
there was so much that was good and then there was so much that was bad, but one of the things that we learned the most was watching people get deprived of food, water because they were so into what they were, trying to receive and and then that subjected to a limited amount of time to get food and then what you bought for the food was not the quality that you need. And I mean, there was a great article that Allison found that just basically told an experience that said this was crazy, insane. I was totally exhausted through the day. And from my point of view, Allison and I had taken these points that we're trying to bring to you guys to say, hey, here's how you can survive your day. Here's how you can survive the Tony Robbins experience without
Which is it.
becoming, reactive or becoming sucked into something that you're not, thinking, or you're being emotionally drawn and you don't have, the ability to determine what's really going on. And so, these are examples that we live by. And one of those examples is how to maintain our day. And we are really good about seeing how important it is that we survive, that we
Absolutely.
actually have a great
And that's
experience.
And that's so interesting that you bring that up too, because I felt really clear that day because we had literally brought a bag of food with us,
And we
and we
didn't
sat
bring
there and
just
munched on
good,
it the
and we
entire
didn't just
time.
bring good stuff. I mean, we brought some bad stuff. We brought our dark chocolate and we
Oh
bought,
yeah.
you know,
Well, do you consider that bad? I don't consider dark chocolate bad.
Well, I joke
Yeah.
with you on that because so many
Yeah.
people think chocolate's bad these days, and we can talk
No,
about that
I
later.
know.
But, just so people
Yeah.
know that we're not all health freaks, the reason why we bring food into our environment in a way that we keep ourselves alive and thriving is because we have now realized what works for us, and so that's what we're going to provide even more information to you guys is that how certain foods really help you thrive better. And there has been distinguishing conversation before about vegetables and fruits and how they are better for you than sugar and stuff, and we're going to kind of help progress even further this concept so that we can kind of help even more people understand what we understand.
Well, and I'll add one more thing to that with the whole Tony Robbins experience. I have to say that my experience with Tony Robbins was awesome. I think he's amazing. I think if people don't know what we're talking about, it's like they had a bunch of speakers that came in before him, and literally, I think he started when it was supposed to end. So we were there till like 8:30 at night. We were there, I think, from 8 a.m. till 8:30 p.m. So you pretty much are supposed to stay in this area with these bright lights and you're sitting the whole time, but you're trying, either you're getting hyped, they're trying to get you hyped up and adrenalized, So there's not really, unless you brought food with you, there's not many options for that. And if you, and like Maya said, you have to run out during a break, a quick break, to go get some food, which the vendors weren't that great, and the food quality wasn't good at all. And then you would have to run back in to, if you wanted to get back in before they close the doors, and sit in your chair with the bright, bright lights and all the stimulation and eat your meal while you're watching this. And so what I realized too, and I think Maya mentioned this as well, I think it made a great, not that it was, I guess, I don't know what the intention was, to be honest with you. I'm sure that I know they wanted to sell everybody things, but it's easier to sell people on things or manipulate people if they're really hungry and highly adrenalized and have low energy. It's really much easier to sway people in a certain direction, and not saying that it's a bad thing for that. Maybe, I mean, all the programs looked great, and they probably helped a lot of people. But that was just something that we noticed. So just watch that in yourself and think, okay, if there's something that's really pulling you in a certain direction, and you feel like it's something you need to do right away, maybe, take a moment to get something to eat and give yourself some space before you make a decision on it.
Yeah, and I think one of the thing I experienced was, um, we're so inundated on getting information. And one of the problems is, how do you discern what's good for you and what you need to move you forward, or even just to keep you in a state of balance? Like, when you kind of look at how, you can be, chasing after a lot of information, or the information is coming to you so much that you're just going to shut down. And, because there's only so much you can process. And one of the issues is the brain needs a lot of glucose to function. And, if you're going to compete with your brain in terms of caking in with it, like, I'm going to really study, I'm going to bring in this information, I'm really going to absorb, you're going to ask their body to really stimulate itself and use up that glucose. Well, you got to think about, how does your body function normally if it's stressed? And one of the things that I notice is, like, if you don't have a good liver function, which is a sign of low energy, there is a sense that you are asking the body to just work on stress hormones. So we're back to that. Let me work on adrenaline and cortisol more than let me work on how my body can function with food. And when we were in there, I could see that, if I was totally stressed out, if I had no food and I was just on stress hormones, that my decision making would be totally different, and my absorption of that information would have never been retained, because I could not have my brain functioning on low glucose. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? So that's awesome, and I'm glad we talked about that, because that was very interesting, and a lot of, like, I guess just I don't know, I got something different out of it than I thought I would get out of it. So it's all good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps us really see what we're doing right. Like, there is some things that in life we really need to recognize that, we're doing a great job. Like, our best is awesome, and what we think we're supposed to get out of something is not necessarily what we're supposed to get out.
Yeah,
And
I think
and
go into something being open, and even if you don't know why you're doing it, or what the reason is right away, then it may come later.
right. And I think why we're so passionate about getting more information out is to really share our experience for others to try it on for themselves and see how it works for them. And that the stages that we've been through, we can kind of give you some insights of maybe what you're going through. Like if you are over adrenalized, do you feel that things aren't working for you and that you really want to try something different? And this difference is that you get to decide and you get to determine what works for you. And balance is basically knowing how you can navigate it and keep it in a pace that you can process.
Yes, you are in control of that. Your experience of that for sure. That's great. I did want to kind of loop back around and talk a little bit about the working in, working out thing and how to navigate that with a low energy state. What do you think? What I used to do a lot with people is to start them with working in a lot, and working in meaning you're having them do very slow movement. It's paired up with the breathing. It's you're still moving, but you're not sweating hard. You're not using your muscles like you would think you would be in a workout. It's more of like a qigong kind of energy generating movement. So, but the thing I'm learning too is that you have to have some stress in there. So there's a certain level of good stress that needs to happen. And then I think there's a tipping point when it turns into not so good stress. So I know you've had more experience with that, Maya. Do you want to share that with everybody?
Well, something that I've gotten an opportunity to learn more about, which I started with, but then it's kind of coming back now even more, is the learning of the nervous system and how it works. And so now when I work with clients, I actually help them do drills that actually help the nervous system not be over excitatory or getting itself basically to shut down because it's had too much stimulation. And one of these things is I've learned is that when you allow less, when you really work on keeping your nervous system from going into an overdriven sympathetic state, and you maybe bring it back down, you actually allow the body to work better. So these drills actually help like the muscle itself function. So like if you say you have like knee pain or some kind of thing, it's not always just about the tissue. It's about how the response of the nerve system is working. And so working beforehand, before you go into a major workout, you just simply do some of these drills, open up the lines, the nervous system, and so that it can really function, and then your performance totally goes to a different level, and sets may change and weight may change, and the feeling after you're done changes. Excuse me. And so the whole experience of working out then is then totally taken to a different level. And starting working in is really just the start of just saying, hey, my body's now finding its rhythm. And instead of just full-fledged running into a major workout, you're getting prep for a really awesome workout.
Yes, and the working in thing, I love that because that's where I'm headed personally. Actually, I'm not using the system you're using, which sounds amazing, but I'm doing. It sounds like I'm using the same strategy. So for my, I've had this
Absolutely.
back injury for a long time, and it has to do. You realize that it's not just about that spot. It's actually about how the whole nervous system is integrated with your body. So yeah, you actually have to have some stimulus there in a short stimulus, So like I haven't run for a long time, but I've just started doing these short, like going running for a minute and then walking for 2 minutes and just doing like that for 10 minutes, like a 15-minute kind of run thing. and it's almost like a sprint actually, and it's been kind of amazing for my back and my hip, just because I'm giving that a little bit of stimulus, to get it fired up and working like it's supposed to be working. Because I think if you're not doing things fast sometimes, or you're not actually in a fast and functional, more from an athletic standpoint, then it doesn't get the nervous system integration either. So that can be great. You just don't
And
just have to learn
that's
like
where
what you can.
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
think
was just saying you just have to learn where you stop and where how much is enough, right?
Well,
And with
that's
the
the
working in,
concept of performance training, right? Like if you're
yeah,
going to do a certain performance, like if you want to, for your instance, like you have such a great background and you've helped many people where, where you bring the structure to you, but then you bring it to a different level. Once you get a functionality, then you can start changing the nervous system to prep for more engagement. So like if you want, like you hike a lot, right? And you want to get faster in your hiking, you're going to now need to do a little bit of those sprints, because the sprints are going to create a great way for your simulation of how you're going to climb better. There's a little bit of a fast pace sometimes when you hike. There's a slow pace based on what you're doing. And oxygen interchange is a whole other topic, but there's ways of how you can perform, do stress to help perform better. And it's not to say stress is always terrible, it's just how are you utilizing it for what you want to do. And that's where I find a lot of what we have learned together and separately has helped us kind of to take into an account and really find that a lot of it's really integrated together.
yes, it is. It's important to realize that and not be afraid of stress either. So that's the other end of the spectrum. But I think it's about awareness and mindfulness around that stress, and knowing the signs of, like, when you're feeling hyperadrenalized, how to get yourself back into that balanced state again, or knowing that, okay, I can handle this extra stress right now. It's okay. I'm strong for that. I've got the energy to handle it. So and it takes a while, especially if you're in a real low energy state. It takes time. You have to be really patient to get up to that point, I think. So that's really, really important. But and you mentioned something with a working in, which I thought was pretty, I'm trying to remember now what it was. It was I don't remember. That's okay. I was going to mention something about that because working in is important too, and I think I use that a lot with people who have a hard time meditating or have a hard time quieting their mind, and they actually hate working in a lot of times in the beginning, but then they end up loving it because they're able to really let go. But it can be a great tool for people who like to move and can't really sit still or have that excitatory state, but just giving them something to do, but they have to actually control their movement till they do a lot slower, and then that helps them, I guess, control the nervous system or reintegrate it in a slower manner so that they can do it later faster. Is that correct? Is that what you think too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, too much corrective exercise can slow you down. And I feel like sometimes I really start to see, yeah, you don't always want to do corrective exercise, because sometimes the free flow, like dance, like you do
Right.
dance, right? Like when
Yes.
you're dancing, you're creating an work in and a workout, depending on what you're doing. Like if you do a slow dance, you're doing a work in. If you're doing a fast dance, you're working out because the heart rate and everything that changes. But you can integrate it. So like this is a great topic because it's exactly what this podcast is about for me, is that we're integrating ourselves. We're taking everything and putting it in together and creating a great dance. So you got to start where you're most uncomfortable to get to a place of excitement, because if you're too comfortable, then you don't change. And change is our life. Like we do not process anything unless we are changing, because our minds will start to just basically dim out anything that we're just used to. So, certain things will stimulate us again, like, if I can start to do something I can't do, or if I can challenge myself, like if I simply can't do something, there's a reason and I can figure it out and I can try to do it, and then I keep trying to do it, and then the try drops away and you are going into doing it, because there's a whole opening of yourself saying, I'm curious and I'm willing to can be consistent, and this will make a totally different, opening in my life. Like life will just be different. You don't have to be in a comfortable space all the time. This illusion of safety, there is this, concern, but that's the mind just being in its survival mechanism. And we can just say, thank you. I am very safe right now. And if I'm not feeling safe, I know how to back out and say, okay, let me do this a different way.
Yes, and I think that it can be a stimulus for that kind of stress can be a stimulus for learning. Hello? and opening the mind and imagination and those kind of things too, and just kind of opening your space into new possibilities, because that otherwise isn't going to happen if you're just always so comfortable all the time and things are the same every day. So, well, let's just recap, because we're coming towards the end of the show, and just what we started off talking about was the low energy, the relationship with low energy to adrenaline. I think we pretty much defined that. And we also kind of gave a picture of what low energy looks like, aside from just what you see on the extreme end of that, which is really chronic fatigue, or fatigue so much that you can't move or you can't even get up in the morning. And, it indicates, of course, our stress hormone response that we don't want to be going off all the time. We also talked about the different ways to exercise. And then I'd like to, expand on that at some point, Maya, and talk about, the environment in which you work out into and how that relates to your physiology. But that'll be for another time. Do you have anything else to add to that today?
I think we're really coming to an understanding what play means, and what it means to each person may be different. But the aspect of play is exploring your environment and exploring your curiosity. And, and I feel that one of the things that I keep wanting to go back to is really finding what works for me and what keeps me wanting to play.
Cool. I love it. Well, thank you, Maya. As always, it's a pleasure. And I'll talk to you. We'll talk again next week.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Maya and I share over 20 years experience helping people with nutrition and lifestyle coaching, as well as wellness and fitness coaching. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you so much. And for more information about what I do and how I help people, you can always check me out at pureenergypdx.com. And you can check Maya out at mayagottlieb.com. And please go to my website for all the podcasts as well. You can also check out blogs I have written there, as well as any workshops that we have coming up. So again, thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.